Good evening, cabin crew. Welcome to another episode of the Conversation Cabin Podcast. I'm your daring host, Farah. Tonight, we're diving into the mysterious world of Appalachia and the spine-chilling tales that have been passed down through generations. Appalachia is a region that spans from the southern United States up to the northeastern United States, and it's known for its dense forests, rolling hills, and rich culture. But it's also known for its haunted history and legends of cryptids, ghosts, and other paranormal phenomena. From the infamous Mothman to the terrifying tales of the Bale Witch, the lore of Appalachia has fascinated and frightened people for centuries. We have a very special guest for this evening. Granted, it was pre-recorded, you know how schedules can be. But we'll be speaking with Jimmy from Spooky Appalachia. Jimmy and his co-host Phil have created an awesome YouTube channel where they dive deep into the legends and lore of the region, researching, writing, and telling stories about cryptids and other high strangeness. But they don't stop there. They also do reaction videos of paranormal clips, take video tours of haunted locations, and even live stream on various topics. I was thrilled to have spoken with Jimmy about his knowledge and passion for the eerie history of Appalachia. He is a great supporter of my work and my podcast. So, of course, this episode is dedicated to you, my friend. The first question that I had asked Jimmy was, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what got you into all of this, any first experiences. So sit back and relax, cabin crew, turn down the lights, and prepare to be spooked. This is a conversation with Jimmy from Spooky Appalachia.
I guess starting out, I grew up in a little holler, and we moved into town. I think when I was like 10 or 11. While living there, I did have I guess a UFO sighting, or what we thought was a UFO. My whole class. I think I told you a little bit about that.
Yes, you did.
I think I was in the 4th or 5th grade, late 90s. About that time, the X-Files were really big. Show sightings, unsolved mysteries. Those were all popular. We watched them in my household. So UFOs were, quite the buzz back then. I was on a playground at my school one, may have been afternoon, who knows. And I noticed a kind of a sphere type object. And you know how this area is. You're surrounded by mountains. There's a big sphere object way off in the distance on top of one of the mountains, kind of hovering above one of the trees at the very top. And, it's got to be big if you can see it. I started, I think I told a couple of my friends, hey, what, you guys see that? What do you guys think that is? And then more and more kids kept coming over to look at it. And it wasn't too long before a couple teachers came over. Somebody came with binoculars. We got to look at it. It was kind of a light brown object, sphere, perfect sphere. Rugged, if I remember correctly, like not smooth, like kind of rugged. I mean, that probably doesn't even make any sense. But
No, it does. So are you saying more or less like what it was made of
Yes,
looked a
yes,
little rugged.
yeah,
I get
yeah.
it.
A lot of the stuff I've seen and heard about over the years, they're all, they're smooth and chrome. This was, I mean, it was kind of weird. And then we're asking the teachers, what is this thing? They had no idea. And then somebody said, "Hey, that's a UFO." And no one was ever able to explain it. It's always stood out in my mind. It was just this object that was stationary on top of the mountains above a tree. Oh, another weird thing was we noticed when we looked through the binoculars, there was like maybe just a straight line coming out of the bottom of it. That was weird, and it was going down towards the tree. No
Was
clue.
the line a light?
No, it was just this thin line that you could see with the binoculars only. You couldn't see them with the naked eye. It was very bizarre.
That's interesting because I watched something before, Jimmy, that on a UFO. I forget right now what the name of it was, but they could only see these lights that they saw through their night vision camera. But if they went like this, like to the side, like looking at with their own eyes, they couldn't see it. So I wonder what that is. So did your friends or teachers, did they ever say anything to you about there were UFOs in that area?
No. And I don't think that I've ever actually seen anything like that ever again. At least that I know of. I could have seen it, and you're out at night and you see something, you're like, is that actually a plane?
Right. And I mean, but especially where you live, I mean, where
Oh,
I live,
yes,
Appalachia,
yes,
we got tons of sightings. I mean, you might have
yes.
not have seen anything personally again, but goodness, we're in like a paranormal hotspot.
We
So,
are, no. My friends, yeah, yeah. I thought you meant those friends from school. I, I don't remember anything from the friends from school, but my friends that I know and have, yeah, I've been hearing about UFO sightings all my life, which you probably have too. But it's everything.
right, exactly. So then how did that UFO sighting affect you after that?
I guess it triggered my interest. I started looking into these UFOs, and then I found Bigfoot. Started looking into Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, and I read about Mothman. Mothman was one that always stood out to me and creeped me out because it was so close. It was just like my dad went to school near there, college, and he
Oh,
had heard
wow.
about it. Yeah.
That's one of my most fascinating cryptid stories. I love the story of the Mothman. I love it. Besides Dogman, but and did your dad or your immediate family, have they had any encounters with anything weird?
My mom did. My great grandma lived with us growing up, and a couple weeks after she passed away, um, my mom took off work to stay home with my sister who was sick, and she went out to the pharmacy to get medicine for her. She'd just taken her to the doctor or something, I think, and went to go get medicine. She left her there at the house. And then she had heard on the radio that there was like a kind of criminal on the loose or something in our immediate area. And she flipped out. She heard it on the radio, raced home. She knew she left the front door unlocked. She gets home. The front door is locked. And she could smell my great grandma's perfume at the front door.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that was really it.
oh my God, but that's
Yeah,
scary just to think that. Oh my goodness, that just gave me
yeah,
chills,
it creeped
Jimmy.
me out.
Wow. What about your dad?
He's never said anything.
No?
Mm-mm. which is weird. He's actually a half Cherokee.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Well, after, so let's go on to when you started thinking about writing and looking into legends and lores
Oh
more.
gosh. I didn't really start writing much until a couple years ago. I mean, I never imagined I would be any good at it. I think it was 2017. Well, do you want me to jump ahead to that, or do you want me to?
Well, what would you say inspired you to start writing about paranormal and cryptid stories in
Okay,
Appalachia? Would you say it was that UFO incident?
I think so. I think so. That's definitely what triggered my interest in it. I've talked to a lot of people in this stuff, and it's always a sighting that they have or an encounter they have that triggers their interest, and then they start looking into it too. Then I had
And
a oh, go ahead.
what was your first stories that you did? Like when you first started, and how did you get those stories? What made you write the first, let's say, 3 to 5 stories that you did?
Actually, I started off in a couple years before. My a friend of mine had a paranormal YouTube channel, and he was having a hard time finding. He wasn't. He was in Australia. We used to play games together, but he was really interested in Appalachia, but he couldn't find the stories. I was like, I know them. I could write down some for you, and I wrote I wrote a story on the Mothman, Flatwoods Monster, and can't remember. I think Black Eyed Kids. I did a couple more, but anyway, they got like over 1,000 views. I was like, holy heck,
Hey,
people.
I might be good at this.
Yeah. Um, and then I actually started doing some work for the Mothman Museum and started hearing even more stories after that. That is one of the places where I get some stories. They send along to me sometimes. But yeah, then I decided to do the blog because I thought I didn't have the voice to do it for YouTube. Thought people would hate it. What you get?
My goodness.
Nobody can ever believe that. But I did the blog first. I still do the blog. All the stories go in there. And my brother-in-law said, "Hey, I could." Well, people were asking if we could, or if I could read the stories. My brother-in-law said that he would. So we started off him reading them. I would upload them to YouTube with a background, and he would read them, and people loved that. And then all the traffic started going to the YouTube, and yeah, and it started growing and growing and growing. And then he also started uploading them to Acast, I think it is, and that puts it out on all the podcast platforms.
Oh, I never heard about that one.
Yeah, it pushes it out to all of them, and so our weekly stories have always gone to podcast platforms as well.
Hmm.
And then I started getting people asking me, or wanting to know what these places looked like. Live from far off, all over the country, all over the world. I'm like, from these places, I mean, they're like an hour or two from me.
Hmm.
I'm like 2.5 to 3 hours from pretty much anything in West Virginia.
Right.
And then I let's see, what did I film first? I think it may have actually been it may have been the Wood Booger Grill and Bar. Where Have you ever heard of Wood Booger? It's
No. No.
um, it's a variation of Bigfoot. In a lot of cases, it's the same thing as a Bigfoot. Um, I wrote a story on Wood Booger and where the whole Wood Booger term came from. It was actually kind of named from the boogeyman. It was a creature that would carry kids off that weren't in their beds at night. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it turns out several years later, there was a Finding Bigfoot episode in Norton, Virginia. Then people started flocking to Norton, Virginia. Oh, what caused this? A guy he was four-wheeling in a river, and he caught video of the creature, Beast of Gum Hill.
Ooh, okay.
And the Finding Bigfoot show came there to try and find it and film it. And then all these tourists started going to Norton, Virginia to try and find the thing. And they built a park around a giant wood booger statue, which is really cool to see. And then there's like a couple of attractions, like a bar and grill with a wood booger burger. I went and ate one, and
How was it?
It was really good. It was pulled pork, 2 patties, cheese, barbecue sauce. It was great.
That sounds
probably not too far from you. It was actually more Southwest Virginia than I'm at. I'm like northern Southwest Virginia, and this is like way down here towards Tennessee. Actually really close to Tennessee. But people loved that. I kept filming more and more stuff. So close to me, I'd heard about an old abandoned hospital really near me in Pulaski, Virginia. What is that place? I can't think of the name. Why can't I think of the name?
Well, take a moment and look it up, because I want to know everything because you have brought a lot of stories to my attention that I haven't heard of or even seen when I research. Like, I do a lot of research on Bigfoot, but yet I've never come across Woodburger. I've never come across that. So when I do my Sasquatch saga series this summer, I'm going to dig into that and see, because I want to do a series where it's all the different types of Sasquatch, Yetis, hairy man, feral people, whatever. So, I mean, it's good that you brought that up, because I've never
we've got 2 here. The Southwest Virginia side. Yeah, I'm in a weird split. If you said you're familiar with my area, we've got West Virginia people everywhere. Well, I'm kind of West Virginia people. My family's from West Virginia.
I lived in Western Pennsylvania. That's where I was born and raised. So I was literally about an hour from Morganton, West Virginia. I lived around the Pittsburgh area, but a little bit, I would say, a little bit north, where it was like Amish country. Mm-hmm. You ever heard of Mercer County?
Yes.
There you go. That's where I lived. I went to school in Lakeview.
Oh, okay.
So I am familiar with West Virginia. When I moved down to North Carolina, I used to have to always go through West Virginia to take my daughter to see her dad. And I mean, that place is vast.
Yes.
But that's what made me move to Tennessee, because I was ready to move to somewhere again vast. When you're younger, you want to get out to the city, you want to do things that, now that I'm a little older, I love the country.
I never wanted to go out to the city personally myself.
But I always would see like the little shacks down, mm-hmm. over the highway, in West Virginia. And I'd be always like, God, that looks just so peaceful, mm-hmm. to not have anything around. But in the same fashion, I heard about a lot of creepy things that happens in West Virginia, like supernaturalist. So
we're so close to the border that like over half the people at work are West Virginia, and then the rest are Virginia. But I know a lot of people from West Virginia. We spend a lot of time there. A lot of the stuff to do around here, you go across the border, like Walmart. We'll go to Walmart in Princeton. But
I went whitewater rafting at the New River Gorge.
Oh yeah. New River Gorge is
I forgot
real
about that.
close to me.
Yep, I
There's
love
some
that
Bigfoot
place.
sightings there too. I've heard a lot. I'm kind of friends with the Bigfoot Museum owner. I guess we could say we're friends. I've met her a couple times, and I've been there. West Virginia Bigfoot Museum's another place I've filmed. It's really cool to see. Oh, what I was gonna say is, depending on where you're at, is what they call Bigfoot. There's Wood Booger, there's Man in the Mountain, Yahoo. I don't know if you've heard of all these, but I was just gonna name those off for you. The ones that Man in the Mountain's a bigger. I hear that one a lot. I've always been told Yahoo's the name of the West Virginia one, but I've heard Man in the Mountain more than Yahoo.
I've heard of Man of the Mountain, not the full story, but I've heard of that, the name of it.
It's Man in the Mountain or Old Men of the Mountain. I've heard both of those.
Let me ask you, Jimmy, how do you go about researching for something that you're going to write?
Well, sometimes I'll look like it always starts off with something that I've heard. Someone's told me. Somewhere over the course of my life, I've heard, like, have you ever heard of Vegetable Man, the cryptid Vegetable Man?
I've heard of it, but again, not the story, just in passing the name of it. And I was Vegetable Man?
Yeah, I'd heard it in passing. I could talk about it a little bit if you want.
That's what I want. I want people that haven't heard these type of stories. I want you to bring your take on it before they hear it from anywhere else.
Okay. I forget the exact year. I think it was sometime in the 70s, maybe early 70s. There was a young man who was about to ship off for the military. He went hunting, I think squirrel hunting. I can't remember what he was hunting exactly. Probably doesn't matter that much. But he was hunting. He wasn't having much luck. He was about to give up for the day when he heard some kind of weird sounds coming from a clearing nearby him. He went to go check it out, and he saw this craft. And then he started hearing something talking. I believe he said that it was like talking to him telepathically, saying that it needed his help. And he spun around, and there was this big, tall, lanky creature. It had its arms looked like vines. They were long and thin, and it had really long fingers that had suction cups on it. And it poked him and pricked his arm, and he was like in a paralysis type state after this. And it started sucking blood out of him, and then its eyes were yellow, and they changed to red. And then it was when it was done, it pulled out, and then it just kind of disappeared. And he started coming to, and then he noticed the craft take off.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That makes me think when you said his eyes started out yellow and then red, that it needed blood to survive or thrive or something like that.
Or it was injured and needed his blood.
Right.
Because it said it needed his help. Yeah.
Now, was this somebody gave this eyewitness account, firsthand account, that they said this happened to them?
No, not this one in particular. It was the ones that I hear about. I actually completely write the story. I do some research and write the story myself. I have a bunch of books. I believe I read a couple articles and books about it and got the full story, if I remember correctly.
Now, do you believe in the existence of these creatures, or do you think that they're simply folklore?
It's really hard to say unless you were there yourself. That's how I see it.
Yep, same here. And that's why I will always say that how do I want to say it? Okay, so like how they say you're innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
I say it's here until you prove it's not, because it started from someone's mouth. It started from someone seeing something. But what always gets me is I can't stand when people say, oh, they'll look at a picture or whatever it is, watch a documentary. Oh, there's no Bigfoot, or no, that's not a Mothman. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, here's what I'll say to that. If you think that's not a Bigfoot or a Mothman or this type of cryptid or whatever, then tell me what it is. Everyone can say what it's not, but nobody's telling me what it is. Even scientists, they're saying, oh, there's no such thing as Bigfoot. Well, then tell me what that is. And they don't ever follow up with, but it's this, and here's my evidence to support that. Do you feel the same way?
Yes.
Thank you.
Speaking of photos, did I ever tell you someone actually sent me a Mothman encounter story with a photo?
No, but tell me. Because I
So,
love Mothman. Anything
yeah.
Mothman.
Let's see. I think that it was 2021. The person told me it was like July 2021. They were actually doing a paranormal investigation. I forget the town in West Virginia. It was like northern West Virginia. And they saw that, I think they were at some picnic tables at a park, and they saw some kind of creature off in the distance, and then it started coming closer towards them. They ran to their cars and kind of booked it out of there, and it followed them. It was flying after them, and they went through a tunnel, and it was lit up, and they got a good look at it, and they were like, "Oh my God, is that Mothman?" They got out of the tunnel, and it kind of flew off, and then they stopped the car, and one of them got a picture of it perched on something, and they sent that to me.
Oh my gosh. You'll have to send that to me because I want to see that.
Yeah.
Now, while we're on the subject of Mothman, that's one thing that disturbs me, is that people continuously say it's an owl. That's what scientists, I guess, like, but the way people describe the Mothman, when it's flying next to your car and it's looking at you and it's going 60 some miles an hour, that's not an owl.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you, but it's not an owl. But what do you think is the most frightening story that you've come across in your research?
With Mothman, or just in general?
Just in general.
That's some really creepy ones.
What's one that kind of, when you were researching it or writing it, you were like, ooh, it gave you like the chill, the shiver, like, or just, you almost kind of wanted to look around because it just gave you that just off feeling?
I actually had one that was sent to me. These people were working in a Taco Bell in Ohio, and they had closed the restaurant for the evening, and they started hearing like a staticky sound coming through the drive-through. It was late at night, and they answered the headset asking if somebody was there, and then they started hearing a pounding on the drive-through window, and there was this little girl standing outside the drive-through window, and they asked if they could help her, and she said, "May I come in?" They told her, "Sorry, but the restaurant's closed." And then she asks again, "May I come in?" And they kind of look at each other, and they tell her it's against company policy. And then she starts shouting and banging on the windows, "Let me in! Let me in! Let me in now!" And they get scared. They hide behind the counter. And they still hear the banging. They don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, they hear like the headphones from the drive-through off in the distance. It's quiet at this point, and they hear somebody say hello, hello, and it's a customer trying to make an order. They come out from behind the counter and she's gone. They did see her face and saw that she had jet black eyes, and they looked into the jet black eyes and found out, hey, this may have been a black-eyed kid. That one really creeped me out. It was
That
one
one
of the first
creeped me out
ones.
too.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I pictured that in my mind, her standing outside and screaming. That got me. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you tell us about any unique or lesser known cryptids in the Appalachia region that you've come across?
You ever heard of Ugwa?
Nope.
So Ugwa is a giant 500-pound snapping turtle.
Oh my gosh.
Alligator snapping turtle.
That would be scary.
Yeah, in some legends it's said to have 2 heads, and some it's just one. It's probably gonna become popular before too long because they're gonna feature it in Fallout 76. But until they said they were gonna do that, nobody had ever heard of it. Gosh, I forget which river it was, but the story starts out. There was a boy fishing, and he's just minding his own business at a river fishing, and then this giant snapping turtle comes up, eats him, drags him off, and just he's gone. Drags him into the water.
Gosh.
Yeah. And then there were reports of it taking cattle and those kinds of things. And then
Cattle?
Yeah.
Jesus. Well, I guess if you're looking at 500-pound, a snapping turtle's mouth anyway, even a regular size snapping turtle, that thing is fierce. So imagine a 500-pound snapping turtle.
Have you ever done, I don't know if you've done much fishing or wading in rivers, but I've had a couple huge ones. That is a terrifying thing to look down and see one swimming past you. Those things are, they're big. I had one probably as big as my torso.
Oh, wow.
Swim past me one time, and that terrified me in the New River.
In the New River?
In the New River.
Oh my God. I didn't know they get that big. I honestly didn't know they get that big.
Oh, yeah, they get huge.
Oh, well then I can see one being that big then. We all know that we have not explored every inch of the Appalachia either, nor the whole country. So, I mean, you can't say something isn't real when you haven't gone out and we haven't researched every square inch of this country. I mean, come on. Yeah. Now, have you noticed any patterns or similarities between the stories that you've collected from different parts of the Appalachia region?
Patterns.
Like, do you notice that there's more ghost activity in one area, more creature activity?
Yes. It seems like towards almost central West Virginia and up, I've gotten a lot of cryptid type sightings, and then from like Braxton County down to where I'm at, I get a lot of ghost activity type sightings.
And, what do you think attributes to that?
I don't know. I guess, Braxton County was Mothman, Point Pleasant. Braxton County was Flatwoods Monster. And then you've got Mothman up the north. Veggie Man I talked about was further north.
Are there some that you think there's a pattern like ghosts and cryptids? So would you say the cryptids are more in the mountainous area,
yes,
and the
definitely.
Ghosts are more in like still rural, because West Virginia is rural,
Yeah.
but not as mountainous, is I guess
Yes.
what I'm trying to say.
Yes. That's it. Definitely does kind of seem like that.
That's interesting. Have you ever
And
thought about that? That there's like patterns like
I
that?
hadn't really thought about it that much until you mentioned it, to be honest.
That's
Also, there's UFO activity, like we talked about earlier. That's universal around here.
well, yeah, definitely. I mean, goodness, because I mean, let's face it, there's been people I think I might be wrong, but hasn't there been alien abduction stories coming out of West Virginia?
Oh yeah. I don't
That's
know. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah.
and I
I
wonder where those are. Are those more I mean, if you took a flap of abduction stories, are they more in like a rural or a mountainous? You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
I always thought that UFOs were more seen and abduction stories were more known of where you get out in the middle of nowhere
Mhm.
because they gotta land, they gotta come to your house, and they gotta not try to not be seen, I guess is the word.
Right.
But now, do you think the popularity of paranormal TV shows and movies have influenced people's beliefs in these type of creatures?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, back when I first started looking into this stuff, people thought it was weird, you know. Just people I knew thought it was weird until recent years, actually.
See, I'll have to agree with you on that though, because same thing. I've always been into the creepy and the cryptid and the scary since I was like probably 8 or 9. And I would always want to tell scary stories around, like if we would go to camp with my friends from like my parents' friends and their kids
Hmm.
that were my friends. I'd always want to like tell a scary story or, this and that. And everyone else would be like, oh, come on. I always gravitated more toward the creepy and the horror movies and things that were unexplained. I wanted to be the one to research and talk
Hmm.
about them. So I
No,
get what
yeah,
you're saying.
I did a lot of reading into that stuff, and then back then everybody's like, "Oh, Jimmy reads that stuff. He's weird."
No, it's not weird at all. It's actually you have a more open mind than people. I'd rather be open minded than have a narrow one track mind that just
Hmm.
thinks everything is because of us. Like we're important. There's nothing here but us. No, we cannot be as good as the universe gets, because if that's what people think, then it's done a horrible job, because we're
I
like the
think,
worst
yeah,
species
I
ever.
think you mentioned that recently in your podcast.
Yep.
The last episode you did.
Yep. And that's just because I don't, like I said, if you see a picture of an alien or a UFO, people automatically are quick to jump and say, that's not an alien. That's not a UFO. But really, you honestly think that we're as good as the universe can make, the fact that we kill one another, we're so angry toward each other, so
Hmm.
negative, we love division. It's just, it can't be. And I think that, yes, I do believe when I hear stories of these women that are being carrying an alien baby, and they get to go up to the spaceship and hold it to bond with it for a little bit. These women, I mean, the one girl that has dark hair, I forget what her profession is. I think she's a lawyer or
I'd heard that.
in the medical field. She's not crazy. She's made a documentary just on herself about what happened to her. And I've seen a couple other ladies tell their story, and it is just, they have so much to lose, Jimmy. So much to lose.
Hmm.
And when somebody comes out with a story like this, that they can lose their friends, they can lose their profession, they can, their family can distance themselves. You just know, are they really putting themselves on the line like that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's something I haven't done a lot of thinking of, to be honest. With it, wow, yeah. Hmm.
I mean, these, when you look at, there was a gray hair lady. I'll have to bring up the documentary that I watched, but it's a gray hair lady, very nice, respectable, prim and proper. She was a professional for 40 some years, and then, like I said, it was a younger, darker haired girl. Again, professional, very well spoken. When you watch them tell their stories about how they knew that they were carrying an alien humanoid creature, and that they were told telepathically to bond with it. This is the last you're going to see of it. Um, it you just got to sit there and feel for them. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
don't
Definitely.
criticize them. And so
Right.
many people want to criticize. Again, I just don't know how people can watch the documentary, and then what they get out of it is they turn it off and they say, yeah, that's not true. So you think this person, this professional, this well-kept lady, she's in a suit. She's in a cream-colored suit in a very nice apartment that she lives in. You're thinking that she's going to just put everything out there on the line, her career, her reputation, her family, her friends, everything, for just a story she just wanted to pull out of her brain one day.
Yeah. I don't think that. No, I don't think somebody's just going to go on and say that.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Did
And
you? I mean, speaking of the women with the alien babies, did you? I'm sure you're familiar with Betty and Barney Hill. I think Betty Hill believed that she
was used
yeah.
because she had that long, very thin needle like that they were
Mm-hmm.
putting into her navel. And
Mm-hmm.
even though it telepathically was telling her, oh, it won't hurt, don't worry about that, but she said she felt like it was taking something from her or
Mm-hmm.
putting something in her. And even the dress that she wore, it had blood on it. It
Mm-hmm.
had blood on it by her navel area. I mean, so I think that she was used in some way. I think they took her eggs, maybe, because apparently she wasn't pregnant anytime that. But then again, we don't know that,
Yeah.
because she could have been taken in her sleep and they could have wiped her
Yeah.
mind.
It's hard to say. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. They didn't. Neither one of them originally remembered the story. It was a while where they started remembering it, if I remember.
Hmm.
Under hypnosis, maybe even.
Yes, that was what it was. I mean, oh my God, to hear a man scream like that, as Barney did,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
terrified.
I saw a documentary on that at a very young age. That, wow.
Yeah, I don't
This,
think I've ever heard a man scream like that, and I could feel the fear that he was feeling when I heard that.
yeah.
Crazy. What do you think, since we're on that subject of aliens and humanoids, what do you think about what it's been said that Eisenhower had made a pact with the aliens in trading for boosting us in technology, that aliens were allowed to do with what they will with us as far as experiments?
What do I think of that? I mean, I
Yeah, do
think
you
it's
think that
very
that's
possible. I mean, think about all the technological booms we've had over the past couple of decades.
hmm
I
Well,
mean, I think
even
it's possible.
what I said about in my last episode about the fact, well, I don't know if it was in my last episode or if it was with me and the Paranormal Project girls, but remember when they were the space race was going on with
Mm-hmm.
Russia, and
Mm-hmm.
we kept having rockets that just put it on the launch pad, blew up. Every rocket was
Yeah.
blowing up. And then all of a sudden, in the middle 60s, 60, I think it was 64 to 65 to 69, the rockets just all of a sudden started going off without a hitch. Now, granted, that was about 20 years past Roswell and when Eisenhower was supposedly supposed to do this pact. But I don't know. I just think it's very weird that in the 40s is when some, just a few alien crashes happen. And then all of a sudden we had these big flaps come up in 50s and 60s. And then that's when the space race, we won it. Going right up there. Now, again, then that takes you to the moon landing. Is it real or fake? So I guess you could go anywhere with that. But, going back to cryptids and I want to know, have you ever encountered skeptics who don't believe in the existence of these creatures, and how do you respond to them?
Actually, yeah, it's kind of where I'm at and where I'm from. It's kind of a divided topic. It's like half and half almost. There, believe it or not, there are a lot of believers around here. I don't know. I really don't respond that much to them. Somebody just says, "Oh, that stuff's fake." Oh, this is. I don't know. I guess around here everybody kind of gets along. And, they say it's fake. You just let them go about their business, really, and you go about yours.
But do you think the people that do believe, do you think it's part of their family history that these stories have started way back then and they're carrying it on, and a family member would tend to believe a family member?
In a lot of cases, yes. Especially with some of these Mothman and Flatwoods Monster ones that I've heard, just going to the locations. I've made some friends, and people have told me, "Oh, my great aunt had a Mothman sighting," or my brother-in-law was one of the boys. That one was an interesting. Brother-in-law was one of the boys that were part of the original Flatwoods Monster sighting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then one of my fans wrote in and told me that his mom actually saw the fireball in the sky in Braxton County.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what I would have given to watch that.
Oh yeah. If I had a time machine, I wouldn't go around changing stuff. I'd go and try to see some of these events.
Same here. I would never go to try to change it. I would love to see all of them. I would love to go back and be, a fly sitting on the Patterson gimbal, two guys that saw that Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, that would be sweet.
Oh, I would love to see that. I would love to see the Mothman, that the woman that her and her brother were the ones that saw it when they were driving in the car and it was coming up beside her. I would have loved to be a friend in the back seat. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And do you think they really had that encounter?
I didn't actually talk about it with her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That means that you believed her and there was other things to talk about and other things to know about her.
She was at one of the Mothman festivals. I can't remember if I told you, but I do some work for the Mothman Museum. I'm up there a couple times a year, and I've met all kinds of people. There's been a couple people I've met. I was like, wait a minute, they were in that documentary. There's been a couple. There was an older man who told me once that he asked me what I thought of Mothman, and he told me that he's been hearing about the bird. I don't know how much you've looked into it, but the media actually came up with the name Mothman. The town people didn't call it Mothman; they called it the bird. It was more of a half bird, half man. But he told me that he's been hearing that people have been seeing a bird, half man, half bird, since before the town was even settled in that area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this goes back to settler time, like before settler time.
Very possible, yeah. He said that the natives talked about it from what he had heard.
Well, then right there, I believe it. If the natives say it,
Yes.
that, I tend to believe a lot that, they're not ones to make up stories. They carry the stories on.
Yeah, they
That,
also had Bigfoot stories
yep,
too.
yep, Hairy Man. They
Yeah,
called it Hairy Man.
yeah. They apparently they drove, so it could have been Bigfoot, but apparently they wouldn't at first would not go into West Virginia until they were driven into the area by the settlers because they said that giants lived in the area.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
if you'd ever heard that, but that could be Bigfoot. But there's also legends of giants in this area too.
I have heard about the giants, and it always makes me wonder, um, if I guess with the Bigfoot thing, a lot of people think it's just flesh and blood.
Oh yeah,
I don't. I
yeah.
think that it's flesh and blood and something supernatural, because I have seen different little video captures of like a trail cam, one that I've just seen recently as of yesterday. It was a trail cam that had the Bigfoot standing there, it was away peeking from behind, a tree, but then all of a sudden disappeared in like a blink of an eye. I believe that the way they're able to be so elusive and not caught and not captured is because they can teleport from one place to another to get away from where they are. If they have danger in one certain area, because there was one lady in a Bigfoot documentary, her sighting was she saw it and then it shriveled into nothing. It like shriveled into a black hole and just disappeared. So I feel that that's the reason why it's been so elusive, because
Mhm.
it can do that.
I've heard of that. Yes.
Hmm.
A friend of mine's a Bigfoot researcher and was actually talking to me about that. Another possibility, I thought, have you seen the Predator movies?
Oh my, that's so
Possible,
funny you bring that up.
yeah, possible. I mean, could even be a like extraterrestrial type race that's
Yep.
here visiting Earth, and they're using stealth technology. Hard to
I
say.
agree 100%. My husband thinks that like the translucent predator, like camouflaging itself, because there's another woman that she was in her tree stand. Probably, I think she was a woman like in her 40s, 50s. She was hunting. She went out without her husband one day, and she was standing in her tree stand, and all of a sudden she heard something out, her right ear across the way. So if you think of a tree stand being, 10 feet up or
Hmm.
so, you look across, that's meaning 10 feet up, and you're
Hmm.
looking across because that's where you hear it from. And she said she saw something through the trees moving, and she had actually got a cell phone footage of it, but it was back when, it was a flip phone and it had
Oh
the
yeah,
crappy
yeah.
digital camera. But you do see something ever so slightly moving through the tree, and it's like you can see something grabbing on to another tree limb to move itself forward. It was very, very weird. But there was somebody that's caught something just like that, like a predator camouflaging translucent see-through being, I guess you want to call
Hmm.
it. But yes, I do think that they are, like you said, some type of supernatural force. Now, have you how do you think that the stories and legends that you write about impact tourism in the Appalachian area?
Well, here lately, it's had a positive impact.
Mhm.
Um, I know the Flatwoods and well, the Mothman Museum even better because and
Mhm.
there and the Bigfoot Museum. There's all kinds of people flocking to these places now. The Mothman Museum owner told me that so around 2020 he started having his best years ever.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You know why? Because YouTube started blowing up of people doing YouTube paranormal investigations, Bigfoot documentaries. I
Hmm.
notice a big jump on YouTube channels. that are doing cryptid paranormal exploring more. At least that's what I'm thinking. But what can you tell us, my listeners, about what you and I had talked about briefly was the Black Sisters of Christiansburg, Virginia. I think this is a fascinating story, and I'd love my listeners to hear it from you, Jimmy, because I think you wrote very well about it. So I'm going to put myself on mute, and I'm going to have you take it away.
All right. I'll start from my notes. But I grew for a good part of my life. I spent in Christiansburg, Virginia, and a lot of my friends are from Christiansburg, Virginia, that I've had my entire life. And I've been hearing about the Black Sisters all my life. I've heard many people tell me they've seen or heard stuff at the school that was built on top of their school, and at Sunset Cemetery, where one or two of the sisters are said to be buried. So from what I'd always heard, the three sisters were called the Black Sisters because they wore all black clothing. They wore black dresses, shoes, gloves, hats, and even had veils. They looked like they were going to a funeral, and people around town would say that they were witches. So I believe it was their names were Mary Sneed, Caroline Martin, and Virginia Wardrall. I can't. Mary and Caroline came to Christiansburg around 1902 to help their sister Virginia run the Montgomery County Female Academy. And then once the sisters showed up there, some strange things started happening at the academy. First, there was the controversial illegitimate baby was born to one of the girls at the all-girls school. Back then, it was big, frowned upon if somebody had a baby like that. And then no one heard anything else about the baby or the girl. They just kind of disappeared. That was kind of spooky. And then shortly after that, Mary's son John was found burnt to death in his bed. Just a couple weeks after his mother had taken out a large insurance policy on him. And then Caroline's daughter, Osie, came to town and married her first cousin, which was Mary's son named Fletcher Sneed, I believe. And sometime after, Osie got pregnant, and Fletcher just fled town. And it was up to the Black Sisters to take care of her and the baby. It turns out that they didn't take very good care of her and the baby at all. Shortly after the baby was born, it died of malnutrition. And then Osie was found drowned in a bathtub. And yet again, another death right after they took out a big insurance policy on her. I also heard rumors that one or two of the sisters had insurance policies on their husbands, and their husbands died mysteriously as well. So this was a thing that kept happening. So after all these events, people in town started talking. The police wanted to talk to them, and they skipped out of town, and I think they fled to New Jersey. Soon after they got there, the authorities caught up with them. Caroline was convicted of murder and sentenced to 7 years in a mental hospital where she later died. Mary pled guilty, but got off in a technicality. She was the one that survived all this and fled to Colorado. And then finally, Virginia starved herself to death before she ever went to trial. And the story doesn't end there. While they were still alive, a cab driver reported that he had taken the three sisters, out to the Sunset Cemetery on multiple occasions, and he had to wait for them. And he said that it looked like they would go and perform this ritual around a couple of grave sites, and guessed it was some kind of satanic ritual. And the weird thing was, people say that, which I can't remember which. I think it could be Virginia that was buried there. That was the one that's confirmed buried there. Went into one of these plots that they had been doing the ritual at. That was bizarre. I heard of that. I've heard that multiple times now. So the years go by, and that all girls school is torn down. I think it was started by the Presbyterians across the road. At least that's what I heard. And Christiansburg High School is built there. Later becomes the middle school, and that's where I started hearing about a lot of these stories. My grandma even worked there as a secretary. My friends would tell me, they would hear stuff when they I think it was one of the bathrooms on the first floor. They would hear whispers. It's this whispering sound. And then I heard stories about would hear screams coming from the gymnasium, and apparently the gymnasium was built on top of an old well, and the rumor is that baby that went missing got tossed into that well, and you could hear like a baby screaming and a female screaming in the gymnasium. People say they see shadows darting around in the halls. One of my best friends told me that, and I believe him. He told me, hey, I've been there. He went to school there. He always felt like he was being watched. And one day he saw a shadow dart around a corner. He ran and looked around the corner, and no one was there. I'm trying to think if anybody else has told. I think I've only really heard people say, oh, and I mentioned my grandma worked there. I would go with her in the summer sometimes to work because, I was, 10 or 11. What do you do with a 10-year-old, 11-year-old? You take them in with you. I got that feeling too. You go in the hall, and it's like a million eyes were watching you as you walked through the hall. It was so weird and so creepy. And then, after I started the YouTube channel, years later, I come back and we're filming. We have all these problems with the video was scrambled the first time we tried to film. Second time we filmed, it turned out okay. I think I sent you a screenshot. Somebody sent me from my video. They're like, did you see this face in the window? No, I didn't see that. That was spooky as hell looking. And even then, when I went from outside, it felt like there were like a million eyes just watching me. I don't know what it was, but that place is just creepy. I get creeped out every time I've ever driven by it. I've been creeped out. They also say that one of the sisters can, if you're there at the cemetery, Sunset Cemetery at midnight, you can see shadowy figures darting around in the cemetery, and one of the sisters supposedly dances around the cemetery at midnight. Was another one I heard. I believe a kid I knew told me that he went and he saw that. Yeah. I don't know if this was kids talking, back then, but I did have a kid tell me said, don't go to that Sunset Cemetery at midnight. He said he saw a figure dancing. Yeah. That one has creeped me out my entire life. I actually didn't write the Black Sister story at first because I was so scared I'd screw it up, to be honest. And you're saying I did really well with it, and a couple of my friends told me the same. It's actually when the blog and YouTube channel kind of took off when I did that. I'd like to go back there and see if I can get inside and walk around and film inside the place. I think that would be really awesome. I believe that's it for the Black Sisters. I believe that's all of it.
You should definitely go to the school and film in there, Jimmy. That would be.
I need to contact them and see. I'm hoping I can. I've got that video of the Alexander House, which is a haunted location. They invited me to come film as I helped them out. I'm hoping that one gets some attention and gets our name out in that area. And I can kind of use that as an example and say, hey, this is all I want to do. I just want to come and film, hopefully. And then the plan is to reach back out to that particular location and see if I can film there. That'd be really neat.
Definitely. And then our last question for this episode, Jimmy, and we'll let you off the hook. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start exploring the world of paranormal and cryptid stories?
My advice would be talk to people. Read books about encounters. I think you and I have talked about it. I'm not super into the stuff you see on TV. I think it kind of gets embellished a bit for views. I think the meat of this is talking to people and reading eyewitness reports and books. I think that's where a good place to start. TV might be good to get the ideas of it, but I can't stress how important it is to actually talk to these people or read these encounters in books.
That's what I do for my research. It's very rarely that I will watch, but if I watch anything, it's a documentary. It's not people going to live in a house or going out and camping for a night, looking for Dogman, because you just don't know. You just don't know. You don't know who to believe. I don't know you.
Right.
So I don't know, but I will watch a documentary with real scientists, real renowned researchers, and that's what I try to do my research on. It's very important. But, well, tell everyone, Jimmy, where you can be found, because I really want to get your name out there. I think you have a lot to offer far as telling people the meat and potatoes of a good story. So where can you be found, Jimmy?
The biggest place to look for us is YouTube at Spooky Appalachia. That's where the majority of our content goes. The weekly stories, the where I'm showing off these places, and our live streams, and we do paranormal reaction videos too. We talk about clips. The stories can be found on our blog and podcast platforms, in addition to YouTube. You watch it on YouTube, you see us talk about it, kind of live, but you can read the stories on spookyappalachia.com, and you can hear these stories on pretty much any podcast platform I can find. I usually use Spotify. We're on Instagram. I share photos from these places and post about our weekly stories on Instagram, and I believe that's just Spooky Appalachia on Instagram. The only weird one, we've got the Facebook page, Spooky Appalachia. That's another good place to find us. And then Twitter, it's Spooky Appalach 1. Is our Twitter. Wow, I'm looking at it now. We've got 1,236 followers. I had no idea. Somebody pointed out to me yesterday, a friend of mine has a dog breeding business. She said, wow, Spooky Appalachia is bigger than my dog breeding business. I was like, it is? And I looked, I had almost 3,000 followers. I was like, holy crap. When did that happen?
Courtney from Haunts, she, when I put up one of my videos on TikTok and it had like 4,000 and some views, she was like, Jesus, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I just like making videos because I think that since I like so much of the strange, paranormal, scary stories, I've been writing little short stories and then, doing artwork on them to bring it out to kind of also emphasize my podcast that, hey, if you like scary and spooky, come on over, because I'm also going to be writing my own short stories, once a month for the podcast. But, I love your stories. I love how they're written. Everyone, all of my listeners, please go over and, take a look at Jimmy's blog, his website, thespookyAppalachia.com. Definitely go add him on Instagram and Facebook. Check out his YouTube channel. Help support another creator like myself. It's so hard for us to get out there when it's a big world out there. So your like, your follow, your support, your listener watch helps us tremendously. But Jimmy, always an honor to speak to you, no matter what it is. And I'm so glad that I'm on your journey with you and you're on my journey with me, and we will support each other now to the future. Time. Exactly.
I'm not quitting this.
Nope. Thank you so much for being on my show. It's been truly an honor to speak with you about everything. I think everyone should take his advice on how to research, do it well, bring the most that you can bring on a story. Put your own twist on it, though. It's always good to put your own twist on.
And that's where Jimmy and I left it for the evening. Please go and check his channel out on YouTube just by searching Spooky Appalachia. Also, go follow him on Instagram and TikTok at Spooky Appalachia as well. Jimmy has a great channel, so please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. It helps us all out there. Just a little update. For Tuesday, May 30th is the second episode of the Virginia City Chronicles, so I hope to all see you there live, 7 p.m. Central Time. And we also have some great episodes coming up, so please stay tuned. And until next time, cabin crew, explore your strange.